All right, so thank you so much, Mr. Schwartz, for joining me. Tell us about RI. How is everything? Are you following on the developments in Afghanistan, and how your organization work impacted with developments in Afghanistan?
Well, Refugees International has been following the situation very closely. As a reporting and advocacy organization, what has happened and is happening in Afghanistan is of tremendous concern to our organization, and we are following it, we are reporting on it, and we are advocating around the humanitarian situation right now in Afghanistan.
So do you work with U.S. RAP, U.S. Refugee Afghan Program closely, and are you helping Afghans with this new refugee programs and visas available to them?
We are, as I say, we are an advocacy organization, and so we are strongly urging the United States government, the administration, to move on these refugee resettlement issues. The inevitable result of the president's decision to withdraw forces from Afghanistan was this humanitarian crisis that we are now witnessing. Thus, the U.S. government has significant, substantial, overwhelming moral obligations to respond to this humanitarian challenge that now exists, which was the result of the decision that President Biden took. So we are advocating a number of things in this particular situation, and I can discuss them if you like.
Sure, go ahead, please. Just tell us what's the imminent need for RI to continue to accomplish your projects, or the way you're advocating and helping refugees.
There are a whole range of critical actions that have to be taken now. So our two major recommendations at this point is President Biden should immediately appoint a special presidential envoy for Afghan humanitarian and refugee issues, a senior official in the U.S. government who has responsibility for addressing this humanitarian crisis that so many people in Afghanistan are experiencing. In addition, Secretary General Guterres, the UN Secretary General, should himself appoint a special envoy of the Secretary General for Afghan humanitarian and refugee issues. So there are two senior officials in the US government at the United Nations who are focused on this issue. And what should they do? First, the United States government should take measures to continue to secure and use the airport in Kabul to evacuate Afghans who are at the most serious risk. And they should do that for as long as they possibly can. Secondly, and really importantly, US officials and NATO government officials should negotiate with the Taliban in Doha and with Pakistan, with Iran, a humanitarian corridor, because as many people who get out by air, there will be thousands of people who will want to leave, will need to leave, but won't be able to leave by air. So there must be a humanitarian corridor in which people are given the opportunity to freely flee the country if that is what they feel they need to do. And that means, go ahead, please.
So the Taliban yesterday, the spokesperson wrote that they will let diplomatic, humanitarian workers, diplomatic offices, everything to function as before. And at the same time, today, actually, Monday, UN Security Council hold a session where Ambassador Greenfield also recommended, similarly to what you're saying, that a lot of aid is stuck at the border where it's taken by the Taliban. So are you suggesting this humanitarian corridor through Pakistan or other neighboring countries, which will help or at least somehow address the humanitarian crisis right now Afghanistan is facing?
Of course, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. And the Taliban should be told that there are clear expectations that they need to let people leave, and they need to permit the establishment of these kinds of corridors, and otherwise they will be subjected to diplomatic isolation and sanctions. And if they want to have any degree of engagement with the international community, they need to let this happen. And because there are thousands of people who need to leave Afghanistan who are not going to be able to do so by air. So these corridors have to be established. In addition, the United States and other governments need to do a couple of things. They need to let governments like Pakistan know that there will be significant and substantial assistance to those governments that are prepared to permit, to let Afghans flee to their territory, as they must do. And in addition, the United States and other governments must say that they are willing ultimately to resettle in the United States and elsewhere, tens of thousands of Afghans, and to ensure that not all of those Afghans who flee end up in neighboring countries. They also, the United States and other governments, need to be prepared to embark on significant and substantial resettlement programs for Afghan refugees. And this is a process that may go on. It needs to happen now, but it may go on for many months or even longer. At the end of the Vietnam War, after there was a mass exodus of Vietnamese boat people, after that there was the development of what was called the Orderly Departure Program, in which hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese over a number of years came into the United States. And that's the kind of program that the United States and other governments need to be thinking about.
Mr. Schwartz, one last question. How Refugee International will be addressing the safety and protection of Afghan women? A lot of Afghan women, even they don't know how to apply for a visa or how to get out of Afghanistan while they're eligible. But it's very tough on them. Is there any way that you're advocating somehow supporting these women?
Well, I think everything I'm talking about, well, first of all, I think those Afghan citizens who remain in Afghanistan, the international community, the NGO community, organizations like Refugees International, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, all have to be advocating with the Taliban and advocating with governments, with their own governments, to press the new regime to respect the rights of all Afghans, including Afghan women and girls. But I'm not very optimistic about the Taliban's commitment to internationally recognized human rights. If past is prologue, then we have a lot to worry about. And for that reason, I think the Taliban regime must permit those who need to flee, who feel they need to leave Afghanistan, the regime must permit those people to do so, either through an air bridge from the airport in the near term, or through humanitarian corridors that take people to places like Pakistan, Iran, Turkey initially, and then ultimately for resettlement in other countries around the world.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the projects. We probably will bring you back